Well, one of the battleground states in the upcoming presidential election will, as always, be the state of Florida. And in addition to having a large number of seniors who vote and care deeply about issues like Medicare and taxes, Florida also has one of the highest percentages of home foreclosures, coming in second place with 91,000, falling only after California. Florida, in many ways, is a microcosm of what is going on across the country. But to a larger degree, and it turns out, many foreclosures have taken place and have been deemed to be fraudulent. So this means that the financial institutions in charge of monthly payment collection and negotiating loan refinancing and modification, they've been charged with what's called robo-signing, meaning they engage in a large number of faulty practices, forging signatures, switching dates, and otherwise just messing up the paperwork to make it so that it justifies a foreclosure. Lisa Epstein is running for clerk of courts in Palm Beach County, Florida, and knows about some of these problems firsthand. She joins us now to talk about some of the issues here. Hey there, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. From what I understand, you're not a typical politician by any means. I know you were a nurse, you lost your job, and soon after, you faced a foreclosure in your own home. Give me a few details about your story and how it's influenced your decision to run for office.
Well, my story starts with watching my patients lose their homes, facing medical bills because of cancer diagnosis. And traditionally, mortgage lenders have been willing to work with my patients and their families, keeping them in their homes. Something changed in 2007. Then when I faced my own situation, I noticed that I couldn't get anywhere. And I'm always paid all my bills on time, was very savvy, and I knew something had changed. So I was very curious and started doing some research.
So, let's put some numbers out from where you are specifically, Palm Beach County. Things are pretty dire there. In the first quarter of this year, 43% of homes were considered to be underwater, which means homeowners actually owe more on their mortgages than the homes are worth. Across the United States, that number is 31.4%, so 15.7 million borrowers. This is according to Zillow. Lisa, talk to me about some of the fundamental problems with what you found to be going on. I think a lot of people thought that these problems would be fixed.
Right. There is no solution that's helping the American family today. And it's more serious than a few minor typos on legal documents. This goes to the essence of America's property rights and due process rights that our founding fathers put in the founding documents of our country. And without American citizens from the ground up standing up and saying, this is wrong, this is fraud, and if I did this, this would be considered a crime by the laws in my state and by the federal laws. Until we have that, we're really not going to see much help for the American family because unfortunately, our administration and most elected officials have decided that protecting the financial services industry is more important than protecting the average American family.
I mean, and I think that's a really, really good point. I mean, we're talking about large corporations with large power. We're talking about a problem that a whole lot of people have said they plan to deal with and yet haven't. So let me ask you, I mean, as county clerk, if elected, and by the way, we should tell our viewers the election is tomorrow, how much power would you actually have if you are, in fact, elected?
Well, the clerk of the circuit court is a constitutional office in Florida, and I do not set policy. But what I can do is, number one, with my platform, educate the citizens whom elected me to represent them as to the extent and scope of this fraud that affects all of us. It affects our property values, and our county is run on property tax revenues. Property taxes are set on the value of property. And if there's a massive fraud overlaying all the property, we have a plummet in values, as your statistics show. We also have county elected officials across the nation starting to understand and stand up for the people who elected them to office. So while there is not much that one county official can do, together, county officials across the nation, we can say, okay, we're not going to see much resolution or solution from the federal level. We're not going to see it from the state level. But there are people that really care enough to step out of their comfort zone and run for office. We have Jeff Thigpen in Guilford County, North Carolina, and John O'Brien in Essex County, Massachusetts. Bill Ting is a register of deeds out in California, San Francisco. There's a sheriff running, sheriff is elected and is serving in Carroll County, North New Hampshire, Christopher Conley. There are the clerks in Louisiana, elected officials across the nation are standing up and within the duties and functions of their role, doing what they can.
But the bottom line, Lisa, is, as you say, I mean, individually, some of these county officials don't have the power. But let's be honest here. This is an issue that President Obama has spoken about time and time again. And I want to play really quick him talking about a deal struck to help borrowers. This is him back in February.
We have reached a landmark settlement with the nation's largest banks that will speed relief to the hardest hit homeowners and some of the most abusive practices of the mortgage industry, and begin to turn the page on an era of recklessness that has left so much damage in its wake.
So we're talking about the settlement that was reached with banks like Bank of America. And what was supposed to come out of that, it was supposed to reduce the amount people owe on their mortgage. It was supposed to bring about lower interest rates and even pay restitution to homeowners who suffered mortgage-related abuses. I guess I want to know, to what extent, since this settlement happened, how have things changed where you are?
I'd like to know that also. I don't think there's any set answer. I've heard of a few people getting some offers from the bank that help them save their homes and provide some balance to the fraudulently appraised mortgage that they got back during the boom times. But for the everyday family, it's still a morass of bureaucratic red tape, and they're not getting anywhere.
I do want to play something that your opponent, you're running against Sharon Bach. She's the incumbent. I want to play something she said really quick.
Okay.
As your elected chief financial officer and fiscal watchdog, my highest priority is protecting your tax dollars. In this economic environment, those tax dollars must be stretched further than ever. So it's important for you to know that I'm diligent in my efforts to increase efficiencies and reduce costs within my own organization.
So she has, in the past, called herself a fiscal watchdog, but has apparently received donations from a company called Lender Processing Services, which has been sued for fraud on multiple occasions. I guess I'm wondering, first, about your opponent, Sharon Bach, and also on a larger scale about other people in this position, why they haven't taken on these big issues. Do you think that has something to do with it?
Well, to my opponent's credit, she did receive a donation, a contribution, and I believe she returned that. I was worried about the scrutiny she would face, so that's an interesting fact. This institution, Lender Processing Services, is incredibly powerful. It has the power and the regulatory capture over many of our prosecutorial and investigative regulatory agencies, such as the Florida Attorney General, who fired two employees who were investigating Lender Processing Services in a suspicious ongoing that we're all looking into. What has to happen is people have to be brave enough to stand up to these institutions, to put their own future, political future, at risk, because at the end, we elect people to represent us.
All right.
Not to.
Sorry, Lisa, we're out of time, but we sure do appreciate you coming on the show today. Lisa Epstein, candidate for the Palm Beach County Clerk of Court. That primary election is tomorrow.